Larry Hagner. Welcome to the podcast.
What is going on, Robert? Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Man, I appreciate you coming on. Now, look, you've got your own podcast. You've got a huge social media following. You're also an accomplished author. You also have another one coming out, which I want to hear more about. But I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you so much for having me, man. This is a lot of fun, and yeah, I mean, the thing that makes me so passionate, I guess, about fatherhood is the fact that I had Meg Meeker on the podcast. I guess it was probably, I don't know, gosh, it was a long time ago. It was probably in 2019 or so. Mm-hmm. And she wrote the book Strong Fathers, Strong Daughters. She also wrote the book My Father the Hero. She's really into this sort of fatherhood space, and mm-hmm. she knows it very, very well. And one of the things that she said when she came on the podcast was, if you put an intentional, purposeful dad underneath every single roof in every single house in just the United States alone, the world would change overnight.
Oh,
because
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Because of, if you really look at the statistics, and this is not to take anything away from moms, but if you really look at the statistics and, you know, what a father brings to the table, it's tremendous. It's absolutely unbelievable. And it's undeniable. I mean, the statistics of fatherless homes will absolutely blow your mind. Of like, you take a dad out of the house and there's usually disaster that strikes pretty quickly and pretty heavily. I mean, like, I think it's 82% of all incarcerated individuals are from fatherless homes or from an absent father to some degree. I think it's 80% plus of teenage pregnancies come from a fatherless home. If you look at kids who deal with drugs, suicidal ideation, anxiety, depression, those stats are always higher with a fatherless home. And I mean, I'm here fighting this fight, man, and it is to positively disrupt this generation of fathers, just this generation of families. And to be honest, it's much bigger than that. It's not only to generate or to positively disrupt this generation of fathers, it's to positively just to disrupt the next generation of kids. Yep. Because if we botch this, you know, as we're doing it, you know, we're the ones, the dads, there's a good chance the next generation will be botched too.
Oh, absolutely.
So, this is a fight that's generational. It's not just with the men who are experiencing fatherhood now. It's generational.
So tell me about you. Tell me about you growing up. Did you have a father? Your relationship with your dad? Love to hear more about that.
I mean, yes and no. I mean, you know, why do I do this work? A lot of it actually has to do with how I was raised and like the trouble that I found myself in about 13 years ago as a dad. So, did I have a role model? I did. I really, really did. He wasn't in the, your typical traditional like father figure. Mm-hmm. He was my grandfather on my mom's side. So he lived about a mile from us. And I think that guy probably saw a bunch of like the chaos that I was going through and how I was being brought up. And I think my grandfather like really stepped in. He never said, I'm stepping in. He never said like, hey, I'm going to show up and teach you some things about life. He never said it. He just did it. And he was an amazing man. He died in 1998, and he was married to my grandmother for 53 years. And I'll tell you, like, no other man on the planet taught me how to love a woman like he did, how to lead a family like he did, how to lead himself like he did, how to just basically make other people feel like they're the most important people in the room. That's what my grandfather did really, really well. He was very charismatic, but he did it from a very genuine place. He didn't do it from a fake place. He didn't even do it from a place of like he wanted people to like him. That's just who he was, which I thought was really amazing. But my immediate family was a very different story. So my mom, I've told this story many times, and I've always been told her like, wow, that's a really unique story. I don't think I've ever heard anything like that. So, my mom and biological father were married when they were really young. I think they were like 21. And then they had me about 4 years later. So like right around they were 25 when they had me. And they were married for 4 years. And by the time they had me, it was horrific. Their relationship was absolutely horrific. And it was a bad divorce. And I don't remember it. I mean, I was a year old, and my dad left, and I have no recollection of my dad. None when I was a kid. In fact, when I was 4, I still remember, it's kind of like I think when the audio visual kind of turns on, the memory turns on. It's like right around 4 or 5. It was right before kindergarten. And I remember just pretty clearly like my friends getting picked up by their dads. So I knew what a dad was. I knew what a mom was. I knew what a dad was. And some dads wore suits and some dads wore jeans, and some dads, but I knew what a dad was, and I knew we didn't have one. And it was not a big deal to me, because I just figured moms go out and find dads. Like that's literally my definition. Like moms go out and find dads, and my mom hadn't found our dad yet, and that was fine. And then I'll never forget, it was right around 5 years old, right around the same time, my mom pulled me aside one Friday afternoon and said, "Hey, I'm having a friend over for dinner tonight. He's a really special friend of mine, and I work with him, and I would really like for you to meet him. I think you might like him." And that was my mom's way of telling me she'd been dating somebody she had worked with, and it was time for me to meet him. And immediately in my mind, my mind, literally the very first place it went to is she found the dad. This is the dad. And I was really excited to meet the dad, because I was like, oh, this guy's going to be the dad. So like he walks in my house. I'm 4 or 5 years old, and I still remember this as vivid as yesterday. Walks in our house. He's got a trench coat on because it was kind of cold out at the time. He's got a 3-piece suit on. He's got feathered hair, a mustache, like double Windsor tie. Like this dude looks like the dad. Like all the dads I'd seen, this guy looks like the dad. And this guy shakes my hand as soon as he walks in. He's like, "Hey, my name's Joe. What's your name?" And I said, "My name's Larry. And are you going to be my dad?" Like literally, that was the first question I laid on this guy after I told him my name. And like I said, "Are you going to be my dad?" I was so excited about this. And I remember my mom like gasping, like, and I remember him laughing awkwardly. And I'll tell you, I remember that night like it was yesterday, because he played with me. Like he literally like played like army guys with me, and we watched, I don't know if you remember the show Chips, but it was like my favorite show growing up. We watched Chips together, and we put on little motorcycle helmets, and we acted like we were riding motorcycle like Ponch and John. And I just like I'm kind of getting the chills talking about it, because I was like, oh my gosh, this guy's like playing with me like a dad would. And like I thought that was it. This guy's the dad. So 6 months later, my mom and him get married. And that marriage lasted about 6 years. And the first year was cool. And then the next 5 were horrific. Oh. Like he was insanely abusive, a major drinker. So was my mom, though. They fought horrifically. Like I would wake up in the middle of the night with them beating each other up. I mean, I would scream at the top of my lungs so I didn't have to hear my mom yelling. He would come into my room, beat me up. Like it was awful, man. And then about 10 years old, they got divorced. And I'll tell you, at 10 years old, when your dad leaves, because that guy adopted me. He was the only one I knew of. It was my dad. When your dad leaves, like and he's like that, there was a tremendous sense of relief. I'm like, man, I'm glad he's gone. Holy crap. But there was also this tremendous void at the same time. It's like, well, now what? Like all my friends have dads. I don't. Like this kind of sucks. Like I'm kind of like the outcast again. And then my mom laid it on me right around that point in time, because I asked, because I was just like, where did I come from? This guy didn't start coming around until I was 5. Like, and I knew what the birds and the bees were. And that's when my mom told me that she had been married, and I had a dad out there. I had no freaking clue, man. Not
so this whole time, your biological father has had nothing to do with you. Hasn't reached out, curious about what's going on with little Larry, anything like that.
Not that I know of, anyway. Yeah. Like he could have contacted my mom. I have no idea. Like it was never shared with me. And in my world, no, I'd never heard from him. Never knew anything about him. So fast forward a couple of years later, my mom was like dating, and every guy was like just same dude, just different name, different face, like drinker, partier, that kind of thing. And when I was 12, I serendipitously ran into my father. Like kind of crazy. Like, and I'll tell the story super, super fast. I was 12. I went up to the local rec center to play basketball with one of my friends. Mm-hmm. And I knew my dad's name. That was it. I just knew my dad's name. I had no idea where he lived. I had no idea if he was even in St. Louis. And I heard the clerk, after I got my basketball at this rec center, say, "Here comes Mrs. So-and-so." I'll leave his last name out of this. "Here comes Mrs. So-and-so with the hockey payment." And his name's not the norm. It's not like it's Smith or anything like that. Mm-hmm. And I look outside and I see this woman coming up and about ready to walk into the building. And I looked at the clerk and I said, "I'm sorry, what did you say her last name was?" And he told me, and I was like, is she married? And he goes, yeah, that's why she's coming up here, because her husband plays hockey up here and she's making the hockey payment for the ice time. And I go, what's her husband's name? And he said, Larry, and that's my dad's name. And I was like, Larry, and then the last name. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what are the chances? And I was with my friend, and I was like, hey, dude, I'm going to talk to this lady when she walks in, because I think this lady's married to my dad. And my friend was like, what? Like, just completely blown away. And so I go up to this woman after she makes the payment. I'm like literally waiting for her, and I tap her on the shoulder, and I'm 12. And I go up to her. I'm like, hey, excuse me. And she said, yeah. And I go, what's your name? And she told me. And I go, are you married to a guy named Larry? And she said, yeah. And I go, I know this sounds kind of crazy. I was like, but I think you're married to my dad. Like literally, I just threw it out there as plain as day, like just 12-year-old kid. And she looked at me and she was like, are you Larry? And I was like, yeah, I am. So there's confirmation. I was like, oh my God, I have the right person. And she just looked at me like just completely floored. And she goes, sweetheart, would you like to talk to your dad? And I was like, oh my God, I would love to talk to my dad. How would we do that? She took me around the corner to the payphones, put a quarter in, called home, and said, hey, I'm standing here at the Civic Center, and I'm standing here with your 12-year-old son. He'd like to talk to you. And she just handed the phone over to me. And I talked to him. I don't remember what was said. I just remember the energy over the phone. My dad was completely thrown off his game. I could tell he was just had no idea what to say. Neither did I. But I asked him, I was like, can I meet you? I'd really like to meet you. And he's like, yeah, I would love that. Go home and ask your mom. I asked my mom. My mom was not happy about it, but I did end up meeting him. And to make a really long story short, I'll make it super short. We hung out for about 6 months. He only lived 3 miles from us. He came to all my Little League games. Like, I saw him every week. Like, I was like over the moon. Like, oh my God, it's my dad. He was remarried, obviously at the time, had a 2-year-old son, another one on the way. I spent tons of time with him, tons of time in his house. And then after about 6 months, things started to change. It was just really, really weird. And then like, I remember calling him one day, and I was actually at my grandparents' house. I remember where I was sitting. I remember being, 12, almost 13 years old, picking up the phone, calling him, asking him like, is something wrong? Like, I feel like something's not right with us. Like something's going on. And I think I kind of phrased it that way. And my dad, I don't even remember what he said. I have no clue. I don't remember it. I just remember that was the end of our relationship, and we parted ways again. And that freaking killed me, man. I overate, got really fat. I failed the 8th grade. I had to do 8th grade twice. My mom continued to date these really crazy dudes. And then I got into high school, and then I went away to college and got my degree. Even though I failed 8th grade, I managed to turn things around. And then I I got married, got a great high paying job in medical device sales, lost all my, kid weight when I was about 17, got really into fitness. So really kind of turned things around. Got married in 2003. And then in 2005, I turned 30 years old, find out we're pregnant with our first kid. And I'm in a coffee shop here in St. Louis for a business meeting for a medical device for the company I work for. And I'm sitting there, and who came walking in for his morning coffee but my dad. I hadn't seen him since I was 12. And I knew exactly who he was when he walked in. He's just a little older, a little rounder. And one of the people that were part of that meeting, I was also pretty good friends with her. And so she knew the story of my dad. And she saw this look on my face. And she's like, are you okay? Like, you look like you just seen a ghost. And I was like, and I was kind of I didn't want to share who had just walked in, because I'm like, this is a professional setting. Like, we're in a business meeting. And I looked at her and I was like, why not? And I was like, yeah, I was like, sorry. I was like, my dad just walked in here. And she's like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, my dad just walked in here. And she's like, your dad, as in the guy you hadn't seen since you were 12? Are you serious? And I was like, yep. And she goes, where is he? And I was like, he's right there. Like, he was like 25 feet, 30 feet away from us. And she's like, oh my God, what are you going to do? What are you going to say to him? And I looked at her and I smiled, and I was like, there's no plan to say anything to him. And she's like, hang on, wait, what? And she's like, you're going to let your dad walk out of here without saying a word to him? And I was like, yeah, I have nothing to say to this guy. Nothing. I was pissed. I was like,
Yeah,
this guy
of
freaking
course.
left me not once, but twice. Like, you think
Yeah.
I want to go over and punch him in the face. Like,
Sure
I don't
you
want
did.
to say a word
Yeah.
to him. Right. So she gets up without even saying a word of what she was going to do and just got up and sat at his table. And I was like, what is she doing? And then all of a sudden I see this guy look over at our table, look over at me, and we made eye contact, and I was like, what is about to happen? And he just like got up, came over, shook my hand. He's like, hey. And I make my dad sound like a bum. He's not. He's a very successful business owner, a very successful entrepreneur. And he's like, hey, he's like, man, so good to see you. Like, how have you been? Like, how's your life? Like, what are you doing? Are you married? Do you have kids? And I looked at him and I was like, I'm fine. How are you? Like, I was not nice, but I wasn't mean. I was just sort of very cold.
Yeah,
I was
understandably
very
so.
Yeah. And he's like, are you married? I'm like, yeah, I've been married for a couple of years. He's like, do you have kids? I was like, I have a son on the way, actually. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I have a son on the way that I wouldn't leave like you did. Like, that's kind of like what was on my mind.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, we should get together sometime. And I go, uh-huh. I was like, I'll tell you what. I handed him over my business card because at the time these smartphones weren't out yet. And I said, I'll tell you what, man, here's my card. If you want to contact me, you do it. I'm not contacting you. Like, I was just kind of really blunt like that. And he's like, okay, I'll do that. And I was like, okay. And like 2 days passed. I didn't hear a thing. And I was like, I knew I wouldn't hear anything. And then I got this email, like this really long email. And this guy just poured his heart out, 55 years old, telling me like, I'm sorry, like worst mistakes I've ever made, like really poured his heart out. And he's like, if you would be so gracious, I'd love to just take you out to breakfast. And so I went out to breakfast with him. And I'll never forget, man, being out to breakfast with my dad that I hadn't had a relationship with. And I was so nervous. I wanted to almost throw up. I was like, I don't even know what to say. And then I remember like nervously making small talk with him. I think I asked him like 20 questions. It felt like I just didn't want there to be silence.
Right. And
then finally I just looked at him and I was just like, and he's like, what? And I go, I'm sorry, man. I was like, I'm just going to be really blunt here. I have no idea what I can ask you. I have no idea what's appropriate for me to ask. I have no idea what to talk to you about. I have no idea what the rules of this relationship are, if there is a relationship. Like, I have no clue what to do sitting here with you. And he looked at me just as plain as day, and he goes, I really appreciate that honesty. And do you think I do? I don't know. And I was like, and it just was like this. It was almost like the pressure release valve went out of the room, because I was like, oh my God, we literally have this in common. We both don't know what to do. We're both adults here and we both have no clue what to do. That was 20 years ago. And we've had a relationship ever since. And he's been married to the same woman, has been for 45 years. I have 2 younger half brothers.
So he's involved. Is he involved with your kids?
Very. Yeah. Yeah. So, and then the final thing is this. I was a dad for 6 years before I started Dad Edge. And growing up the way I did, where there was abandonment, there was abuse, there was chaos, there was drinking, there was drugs, there was it was horrific. I was messing up fatherhood myself, even though I didn't want to. Mm-hmm. And how Dad Edge got started is I made a promise to myself. I was like, I was hit a lot growing up. I'm never going to hit my kids out of anger, ever. And I broke that promise. My kid, who's 17 now, he was 4 at the time. He stepped out of line. I spanked him. And unfortunately, I spanked him so hard, he hit the ground. I actually fell. And when I went to go pick him up, because I immediately was like, oh my God, what did I just do? I went to go pick him up, and he saw me coming like this, like, oh my God, are you all right? And he saw my hands out like this, and he literally just closed his eyes and put his hands up like, don't hurt me. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what have I done? Like, this has got to stop. And it was that night that I started Dad Edge. And it was literally just like, I asked myself a question of like, I basically was like, I suck at this. I'm not good at this. Why do I suck at it? And I really started thinking about things. And it really boiled down to this. I hadn't done one thing to learn anything about it. Not one. I started looking at all these other areas of my life. Like, I have a degree in exercise science and a minor in nutrition. So I can teach anybody how to be fit, and I can do it myself. Like, it's a no-brainer for me. But I've also took 4 years to learn it. I used to do martial arts for 12 years. I loved martial arts. I was pretty okay at it. And I'm like, why am I good at that? Well, there's a curriculum. I have an instructor. I have people I do it with. I learn it. Learn. And I started thinking about all these amazing things that human beings do in their life. They learn it first. And I'm like, well, what have I done to learn anything about marriage and fatherhood besides try to wing it? Nothing. So can I learn it? Do the same rules apply? And that's honestly, man, that's what the past 13 years have been. It's been this exploration and this journey of like learning it and putting it into books and into podcasts. And turns out the good news is you can learn it.
Wow. Larry, first, thank you. That is a lot to unpack. And from, you 3-4 years old and meeting, when you talk about you meeting this man coming over to your house and are you going to be my dad? It breaks my heart. Like literally I think about that little boy who's just yearning for a father, yearning for masculinity, somebody to look up to. And then to have that ripped away and everything in between that. And then the chaos with your biological dad. But, I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm so happy to hear that he is in your life now and, part of your son's life as well. But, that's a lot. That's more than you said, a unique story. That's more than unique. Tell you what, that's a book in and of itself right there. But also, Larry, it makes a lot of sense as to why you're so passionate about fatherhood and why you're so like, if you look at your page, if you listen to you can see you're a proud dad. You love being a dad. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think, you kind of learn things either in this journey that I've been on with the podcast of talking to different fathers. I always love whether I have them on the air, talk about, how'd you get into this or what does fatherhood mean to you? Or when we're not recording, it's usually one or the other. Either there was somebody, a father figure that was absent, or they just had a really good dad and they want to share that with others and they want to try to be the best dad. And, that makes a lot of sense, And, man, I appreciate what you're doing. And I do thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And thanks for giving me the space to share it. That's
quite the journey you've been on. All right, let's talk about your boys. You have 4 of them.
Last time I counted, yeah.
What? Give me the ranges of ages there.
I always joke with people. I'm like, I can't remember. There's too many of them. No, I'm kidding. It was 19, 17, 11, and 9.
Okay. All right. Sports.
Yeah, my oldest. So the funny thing is, we call him the pattern breaker.
Okay.
I actually got him a plaque that says the pattern breaker. The pattern breaker. So he's a band kid.
Okay.
He played saxophone all through the high school marching band, worked his way up to section leader, and then his senior year he became the drum major. So he was leading the whole high school band, and always been a band kid. Loves band.
Yeah.
Not the most athletic kid in the world, but went out for the wrestling team his sophomore year.
Wow.
And wrestled his last 3 years of
Okay.
high school.
Okay.
So we call him the pattern breaker because I'm like, dude, there's not many band kids that wrestle, number one.
Yeah, I was about to say there's nobody I've ever known that can lead the band and also wrestle.
Also wrestle, yeah, it's so funny. But like, it was so funny when he went out for the band or went out for wrestling. He was terrified. He's like, Dad, like, what are the wrestlers gonna say? Like, they're gonna pick on me, like I'm the band kid, like, and I'm not the wrestler. And this is hilarious. Like, I can't make this up. The wrestlers loved him. Like, they were like, dude, you can lead the band, you can play saxophone and wrestle. Like, dude, like they just thought he was fascinating. Like, and they loved him. And he got along so well with the wrestlers. As soon as he went out for the wrestling team, the band kids turned on him. And they picked on him. Yeah, they were just like, oh, you just think you're like a wrestler now. You're too cool for us. I'm like, and he's like, no, I just wanted to do something athletic. I want to do something to challenge me. I want to learn some self-defense too. And so that's why he went out for the wrestling team. So got a wrestler and a band kid. My 17-year-old is the starting center for his varsity football team. Has been for the past 3 years.
Okay.
He's been playing football since he was 8. He's
a pretty big guy.
He's way bigger than me and stronger, and he tells me every day how much stronger he is than me. He just entered into the 1,000-pound club. He's the 11th kid in his high school to get into the 1,000-pound club.
Wow!
And it's squat, bench, and clean. It's not deadlift, so he's cleaning 225 pounds. I don't even know how he does that, but anyway, so that's that. And then my 11-year-old, he plays football and basketball. And my 9-year-old is so obsessed with Taekwondo. He would literally probably train every day, all day. If we let him Taekwondo, he just loves it.
That's great. That's great. So let me ask you this. You're talking about your second one being stronger than you, bigger than you, stronger than you. How were you with that? When he started eclipsing you, how were you with that?
It's so funny, man. I literally posted on my Instagram, there's like these two bodybuilders that are working out, and the meme was when you are working out and suddenly for the very first time your son is pressing more weight than you, and there's this look on this one bodybuilder's face as he watches the other guy, and he's like it's just absolute defeat. But it's like it's funny, like it's like a little demoralizing, but like at the same time, like he should be. Like he should be stronger, he should be faster, he should be smarter, he should be better. So like when he jokes with me, which he does every day, he's like, I'm stronger than you. I always tell him, I was like, you should be. Yeah. I was like, you should be stronger, faster, better, everything than me.
I want you to be.
Yeah.
I want you to be more successful than me.
Yeah. And I was like, if you're behind me, then I'm not doing this job so well.
I'm all for it.
I love that, man. I love that. Yeah.
Did you coach your kids anything growing up, or?
I coached him in wrestling. I coached him in baseball. And now like I did martial arts for a long time. So like I don't teach my son Taekwondo, but he goes to a school for that, but like we train together. So like we take some of the things that he's learning and then we just practice them, like, and it's great. Like I love spending that time with him. We'll go outside, we'll play music, and we'll do our form together, and I'll polish up his punches and his kicks for him and that kind of thing, and he just loves it. I'd rather him, like, quite frankly, do jiu-jitsu because like I think it's a more functional art because sure most fights will go to the ground. But I think this is kind of like just sort of like if we were to just like take this lesson for dads out there, like he saw the Karate Kid and he's been wanting to do martial arts for a while, and I've been trying to kind of push him more towards wrestling and jiu-jitsu just because like, and that's, I'll be very honest with you, that is the only thing that I ever try to sort of push my kids into. I don't like anything else they do. Like, you want to play an instrument. You want to like play soccer, baseball, play it, right? But if you tell me I want to do a martial art, I will probably try to convince you to do wrestling or jiu-jitsu, right? Mm-hmm. But I did Kuksawan and Taekwondo. I did all those too. But like with him, he tried jiu-jitsu, he tried wrestling, and he's just like, I hate this. And I'm like, okay. I was like, well, it's maybe you're a little young for it. And then he saw Karate Kid, and he's like, that's what I want to do. And I kind of like joked with him. I was like, it's functional, but it's not. I was like, if it can kind of build you up to think that you can defend yourself, and then you just get your rear end handed to you if somebody grabs you. I was like, but whatever. I was like, listen, if this is what you want and like you're really excited about it and you're like ultra passionate about it, like let's go do it. Like it's better than nothing. Yeah. So I signed him up for this thing, and he just can't get enough of it. And I'm like,
it's great.
Whatever. It's like if he wants to do something else later down the road, like a different martial art, but for right now, he loves this so much, and that's what I'd love to see more than anything.
There's so much value in kids learning, some form of martial arts. There's so much value.
I agree.
I think more so than just defending themselves. I think that is a great byproduct of it. But there's so much more they learn from that.
I agree.
All right. So I want to just be respectful of your time too. I want to jump to your podcast. How long have you been doing it? You've been doing it a while.
A decade. Yeah.
Wow. So you're one of the OGs. If not the OG.
I joke with people that like when people ask how long I've been doing the podcast, like I just said this on another podcast yesterday. I was like, people say that I'm an OG. I don't know what that means, but I'm guessing that means if you've been podcasting for that long, maybe that's your status. You're an OG podcaster.
Oh, that's too funny. So tell me this, so how many episodes?
Just shy of about 1,400.
All right. This is going to be tough then. Most memorable guest and most memorable episode, and they could be the same ones, but
I'll give you a few because I think so I always have to go back to Matthew McConaughey because I interviewed him a few years ago, and it was just really, really cool. And it was very serendipitous because my wife and I, the very first date that we ever went on in college was to go see A Time to Kill.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was the first movie we ever saw. And then she meets, Matthew McConaughey on my podcast, 25 years later, which was kind of serendipitous, but he was really fun to talk to. One of my most favorite guys, I think, to interview was John Bernthal. I was on his podcast and he was on mine. He's the Punisher. I loved him because John Bernthal, funny thing about Bernthal is that I never watched The Walking Dead and I never saw The Punisher. So quite frankly, I wasn't 100% familiar with who he was. I'd seen him in really small parts in other movies. So I didn't really know much about him. And I went and met him because I was on his podcast first, The Real Ones. And I didn't know this. It was crazy to meet him. But he wrote me this email. He wrote this email. I didn't even know it was him inviting me on his podcast. I didn't know who John Bernthal was. I knew who he was, but I didn't know that was his name. And then, so I forwarded the email to my assistant. I'm like, hey, can you check out this podcast and just, let me know if I should be on this? And she wrote me right back. She's like, yeah, you should be on this. And that's all she said. And then I realized who he was. And then I met him. And the very first thing he said was, he's like, dude, I'm a huge fan of your show. He's like, I listen to every episode when I'm driving. I was like, are you, what? Me? You're the Punisher, right?
Yeah.
But he is just such an everyday guy. I'm talking you want to go have a beer and lunch with somebody, John Bernthal would be an everyday dude. And then after I met him and I was like, wow, that guy's an everyday dude. And then I watched The Punisher after I met him. And I was blown away at that guy's talent of acting. I was like, if that guy can be this everyday dude that's just funny and joking around and lighthearted and then he can play that. Are you kidding me? And then so he came on my podcast and I just loved how imperfect he was with fatherhood. He fumbled, he stuttered about it. It was just he puts his pants on the same way as everybody else. I loved talking to him. And then the third one that I really loved was Sean Patrick Flannery, who was in Powder back in the 90s. He was also in Nefarious, which was his newest movie, but he was so fascinating to talk to. And he raises boys, he's been doing jujitsu for 20 years. His boys are wrestlers, just how entrenched that man is with his family. And there's really there's no Hollywood in him either. He's just an everyday guy. Yeah.
It's pretty neat when you meet those people. Really the true person inside. I had a brush with, I live in Atlanta. And so there's a lot of filming that goes on here. And a few years ago, I had a brush with somebody who's a very well-known A-list actor who was in town for a couple months filming. It was my first introduction to pickleball. We played pickleball together and then worked out together, had each other's number. And literally he would send me a text, hey, are you going to the gym? And, I still was like, wow, this is pretty surreal. But to come to find out who they are inside, most of them, it's really cool to see. They have the same struggles. They have the same struggles with fatherhood. It kind of goes back to what you're talking about. And what you talked about earlier, of learning how to do fatherhood, there's really no book outside of, there are, and granted you're putting them out there, but everybody's kind of learning as you go. And, I am such an advocate of, taking these courses, reading these books, because we have no problem if you want to work on your golf swing, okay, go spend $150, $200 an hour to, get your golf swing better. And we have no problem with that, of spending that on an hour. If you're wanting to get more fit or you have an injury and you're wanting to, exercise, figure out how can I exercise with the injury, you'll go hire a personal trainer. But so many times us men, we are hesitant to reach out and find out, how can I be a better dad? And guess what? The struggles you have, a lot of us are having those same struggles. A lot of us are. And,
so true.
That's why I love what you're doing. I really do. I love, from your podcast to the books and the coaching you have going on. I love that. And, obviously, as we were talking before we started recording, you're having a big impact on a lot of people. we talked about your past and we talked about your sons. Is there something else inside you that just drives you as a father? Like, I mean, probably your past, but is there something?
So over the past like 10 years, I've hired a coach every year for something, just to continue to learn, continue to grow, to continue to evolve. And one of the things that I see, you're asking me what drives me. It's, this is what drives me. I heard a quote, and I think it was from Napoleon Hill, but I heard it from a podcast guest who was actually on another podcast. And I actually ended up having this guest on my show just for the simple sake that I heard him say this quote on another show. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I've never heard that. Like, and it literally, I still remember, this was probably like 6-7 years ago. I remember where I was in my car. I remember the left turn that I was making at the light that I was at.
Wow.
When I heard this quote in my car. And that is, the definition of hell is meeting the man that you could have become when you're laying on your deathbed. And here's what I'll tell you. I spent 18 years in the medical device world, surgical sales and surgeons and that kind of thing. 8 of those years were I was selling devices for patients who had everything from the diagnosis of cancer to the palliation and the treatment of cancer, all the way to I had a product that would allow a patient to go home and die. Like, it sounds kind of morbid, but like that was my world. So like I sold this indwelling catheter that went in someone's chest that they could basically drain the fluid that accumulates on their chest, called a pleural effusion, at home, versus being hooked up to a 16 French chest tube. And a 16 French chest tube is about the size of your garden hose that's sticking out of your chest. It's horrible, it's painful, and you're in a hospital, and that's usually how people die. Instead, I used to sell like this really small, like indwelling chest tube that a patient could go home with, and it was a closed system, and they could basically go die on hospice, but they could be at home and they could be around their loved ones. And so I got to spend 8 years interacting with patients who were literally on their deathbed, like literally. And everything from people in their 20s and 30s to people at the end of their life. And I got to hear their stories, and I got to hear their burdens and their regrets and the things that they would have done different. And those voices ring very loud in my mind and heart of what is essential. So like, for instance, it's not even at the end of my life, it's at the end of every single day. Like, I want to go to bed exhausted out of my mind because I didn't leave anything on the table. Like, there was nothing left to be said. There was nothing left to be done, and everything was done. Everything was said. And that's the way I want it. So I know what it feels like firsthand to have the experience that I did, which was very lackluster, and it really sucked. And I want to give this gift to my kids. And to be honest, I want to live within this way. There's no other way that I would actually probably find acceptable to live than this way. So one of the coaches that I hired a while back, and back in 2019, he's the best one I've ever had, and his name was Frazier. He said, "Dare to be a stallion among the donkeys of your life." And I'm like, dare to be a stallion among the donkeys? What does that mean? And this quote he lived by. He's like, think about it. Most people live their life as a donkey. They settle for the life that comes at them.
Yep.
They go through the wash, rinse, repeat. Life happens to them. And then they get to the end of their life and they're like, well, that was not the greatest. And then the stallion, he lives very, very different. He eats different. He sleeps different. He exercises different. He challenges himself to be faster, stronger all the time. He's like, that's the life that I want. And so I was like, wow, there's like a certain, I think, confidence in that of like, I'd rather be a stallion and not a donkey. Not to say that you're looking down upon other people, but it's just like, this is the way I'm going to live. So the thing that really intrigues me about doing this work is I look at this work as fitness. The minute I stop eating healthy and stop going to the gym is the minute my health starts to decline. Like it literally will happen that fast. The minute that I stop doing this work and stop learning and growing and evolving and challenging myself and learning how to, like right now, I mean, I have a 19-year-old, so I'm learning, okay, I'm in a whole new world with him. I'm now raising an adult son. That's different dynamics than raising a child. So I need to keep learning. because this is now new. So every single season, there's something new to learn. And if I'm not in front of it, well, then I'm just getting unhealthy. I'm getting fatter, and I'm going to die sooner. And my quality of life is going to go down, just like fitness.
Wow. So I imagine you've instilled those qualities into your own sons. And they learn so much by not, I see from my sons, I can tell them and tell them and tell them. And I think of the different tenets basically that I want to instill in the boys, and I can tell them, but it's more of showing, it's showing them acceptance. It's showing them tolerance. It's showing them putting God first, things like that. I'm sure that your boys are seeing that in you, and you're probably seeing that bubbling up in them as well. Obviously, I think about your second son starting center for the last, 3 or 4 years. Obviously he's no donkey. Think about your oldest one as well. For him to go out and go against the norm of, yeah, okay, I can play the sax, but I also want to wrestle. That has to be pretty cool to see that.
It's definitely cool to see that. I love seeing that. I have no idea how much of that is me and how much of that is them, and just how they're wired.
There's a lot of you in that. There has to be.
We've always told these kids, like, we've always given them, I like to think anyway, to give them the example of don't leave anything on the table.
Yeah.
Like, go out and make your life, however you want it, right? Regardless of how people will tell you that it can't be that way.
So tell me this. I want to go into your book. I know we're getting a little bit short on time here. I think, with you talking about the amount of people that you've interviewed, that you've talked to, the research you've done. Being a father, being a dad is a huge part of your life, and you're really a student of that. Your new book coming out. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Will you promote that?
Sure. So it's the Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. It's divided up into 4 parts. The first part is called The Drift. Happy to talk about that if you want. That seems to be the thing that's most intriguing that people want to know about. Second part is husband. Third part is father. And fourth part is leader. I wrote the book. It's 22 chapters long, 4 parts. The chapters aren't very long. I did that on purpose because I wanted to write a book that a man could easily pick up. And granted, I would love for a guy to read through the whole thing, but I also would love, after you're done with it, it's on your bookshelf. And if you're like, hey, let me see, lead her, or or date her, or the 4 elements of an extraordinary marriage. Let me review that really, really quick. Let me just jump in here and read that real quick. So I want to create a book where a guy could pull it off his shelf, look in the table of contents, be like, oh, that's it right there. I need that. And then
what I do in this situation.
Yeah. And, but yeah, that's, it's got this book literally has everything that I would say the Dad Edge has learned over the past 10 years around leadership and raising young girls and raising boys and communication, connection, mindset, health, wealth, all of these things that are so important to us as dads.
Hey, tell me the section you called The Drift. Will you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. The drift has been something that a lot of people I've actually spent the majority of the time on podcasts talking about the drift because they're like, what is that? And I think you'll probably understand what the drift is after I explain it. So I can't take credit for the quote or the drift. I heard that from Gary John Bishop, who is a New York Times bestselling author. He wrote the book on Fuck Yourself. So hopefully I can cuss on but I'm quoting a title.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
That's his. Those are his books. And so he's like the self-sabotage guru, and he's been around for a long time. Every time he writes a new book, I have him on the show. But he and I got pretty close back in 2018, and we have been ever since. And he used to post on his Instagram, interrupt the drift. And I remember one day texting him, I'm like, Gary, what is the drift? What does interrupt the drift mean? And he basically described it the way I'll describe it, but he described it very high level. It's like, hey man, it's the wash, rinse, repeat. It's the thing that where people are living a life and life is happening to them.
Yeah.
And they have no control and they're just settling for it and they just drift right through and they complain about it and they're a victim about it and it's just the drift.
Yep.
And I was like, okay. And so I started really researching the drift and I started thinking about, well, what does the drift look like for a married man with kids? And it looks like this. So, and I was a part of this. I still get into the drift every now and again. But when I first started this platform, one of my mentors was like, you have to have an avatar. And I was like, well, that's probably just me. Like, I'm the avatar. Like, I'm the train wreck that I'm trying to help ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but you need to be talking to somebody specifically when you're writing your books. Like, when you're typing out your chapters, like, this is the guy that you're writing to. Like, this is the guy in the airwaves that you're talking to. So 10 years ago, I came up with a guy named Lance, who's 38. He hasn't aged. He was 38 then. He's still 38. But Lance is 38, and this is the drift, okay? And this is what also happened to me, but let's just see if you can relate. He's 38 years old. He's been married for 10 years to a woman named Kate. He's got 3 kids, 9 and under. He drives to a job every single day that he doesn't really love whatsoever. He doesn't necessarily despise it, loathe it, or hate it, but he really doesn't like it too much.
Yeah.
He knows that there's more in him that he really wants to do besides this job, but he feels very trapped. And he's like, well, I'm the breadwinner now. My wife stays home. And I can't do anything else. So I'm stuck here. And that feeling of being stuck there really doesn't sit well with him. In fact, he just feels like he's leaving a ton of his potential on the table. It's a bit demoralizing. It kind of wears on his confidence. It's a stressful job. He brings his stress home with him. He doesn't really like that at all. And he's like, man, isn't there something better out there for me to do? But there's nothing. I'm trapped. I've got 3 kids. It's irresponsible for me to do something else. That's what he's telling himself about his career. Then he comes home to his wife, Kate. And he dated Kate for 5 years before he got married. And ever since they started having kids, their sex life has kind of fallen off the cliff. They talk about high-level managerial things. They don't really talk about their connection. They don't go out on dates. Everything is about the kids. All their activities is around the kids. They don't even talk about their relationship anymore. They only talk about parenting and the things, the bills and the dinners and all this other stuff. There really is no substance or depth to the relationship, not nearly as much as it used to, but it's not so bad to where he wants to run out and have an affair or get divorced. He just is like, okay, well, I guess this is marriage. And here's the crazy thing. All of his relatives and all of his friends are telling him the same thing. What do you expect? You've been married for 10 years. You think you're going to have sex anymore? Come on, man. You got 3 kids. Like, you think you're going to have connection anymore? Dude, that goes away. It's marriage. Come on, right? So he buys into that. But it still doesn't sit well with him because he's like, well, that kind of sucks because that's not why I got married. I want to have this crazy, amazing relationship with my wife. That's not happening. The 3 kids he has, he loves more than anything. But he has a really hard time connecting with them. He also has a really hard time with patience because the stress of his marriage and the stress of his job, and not to mention the fact that physically he's let himself go a little bit too. So he used to be in pretty good shape, and now he's just like, well, it's selfish for me to take care of myself. I can't take care of myself. I have to take care of these kids. I have to take care of Kate. I've got work to do. So his mental health and his physical health and his emotional health kind of slide downhill a bit too because he's not taking care of himself. But he again he feels trapped. I have no other choice. I have to do life this way. So ultimately, Lance feels very trapped in this thing called the drift and the wash, rinse, repeat. And he has no clue how to get out of it. And everyone around him is telling him, this is life, dude. What'd you expect? But he knows that there's more there. So interrupting the drift is what this book is all about. It's like, you want to go build a kick-ass marriage? There's a whole section on that. You can actually go do that. If you want to learn the Taekwondo skills to go build a kick-ass marriage, it's right here. This is what you can do. If you want a connection with your kids and you want to be more patient with them, here's the Taekwondo skills on how to do that. Like, here's all the skills on how to connect with your kids at the level that Lance wants to connect with them, with the patience and the playfulness and the conversations and all this stuff that Lance is like, holy shit, yes, this is fatherhood, right? There's also permission in this book of like, dude, if you are not taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, not only will you slide down, but your entire family will too, because they don't want the 50% of you. They want the 100%. So you better make time to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you're in serious trouble. And as far as what you do for a living, you're not trapped. You can go out and do anything you want. You really, really can. I know that that's something we tell our kids, but that is something that all of us can do. And in no time in human history has there ever been a time where you can make money doing whatever it is that you love. You just have to put effort behind it, and you've got to put strategy behind it, and you can go do it.
Sounds like it should be required reading for any man that gets married.
Can I add one more thing to this that I think you'll appreciate? You're a dad. So like when I first, so I actually wrote this book. I mean, I wrote this book in 2022. I've updated it since, but like this book was actually going to be published in September of 2022. I was going through a publisher. The publisher met me at a speaking event, and we ended up talking, and he's like, "Hey, I'd really like to publish your book." And he's like, "What's the title going to be?" And this guy is not married, no kids. And we started talking about the book, and I said, the book is going to be called Pursuit of Legendary Fatherhood. And he looks at me really puzzled. He goes, it sounds a little long. He's like, why not just call it Legendary Fatherhood? And I just like looked at him, I smiled, and I go, you're obviously not a dad.
Yeah.
And he goes, I'm not, but why do you say that? And I go, because you would know that there's absolutely no such thing as that.
Yeah,
like,
you'll understand.
Yeah, no one gets to the top of the mountain and says, look how awesome I am. Look, give me my gold star and my championship belt. I became a legendary father, not one person.
Right.
I was like, but there is the pursuit of it. There is the growth of it. There is the journey of it, the learning of it, right? So, and the day, and I think this goes back honestly to like, what is it in me that won't stop doing this? It's that. It's like, there's the journey of it. And as soon as you stop pursuing it, man, that's when you start getting into real problems.
So true. That is so true. That's so true. Look, if there's any advice, let's say me and you, we're getting in an elevator, we've got 10 floors to go up. And I tell you, look, hey, I'm about to become a dad. Can you give me some advice? What would you tell me?
So the first piece of advice I would give you is, I would want to flip the perception of fatherhood and marriage on its head while we were in that elevator for you. And here's what I mean by that. This is, as I unpack this, like, even though I've said this so many times, like every time I hear it, I'm like, I can't believe this is the perception out there. I really, really can't. And I can't believe I bought into this perception. So I'm married. So awesome. Like, right. Like I just got married. Like, hey, great. Like I should know how to do marriage. Like I love her. Like that should be enough. Like we'll figure this out. Oh, we're pregnant. Like, you know, I was raised by parents and everybody's raised by parents, and like being a dad, like, yeah, man, I'm a man. So I should be able to figure that one out. No problem. Right. It should almost be like instinct for me. Here's the crazy thing. And this goes back to like martial arts. Like we have a lot of guys who come into our community and jujitsu is a huge thing right now. And I love talking to the jujitsu guys because this perception means a lot to them. So when I ask them like, hey, like, what have you done before now to learn about marriage? And usually it's like, I haven't really done much. Okay, well, what about fatherhood? What have you done? Oh, I listened to some podcasts here and there, but like not really much. And I'm like, but you do jujitsu. And they're like, yeah. And I was like, how long? 2 years, 3 years, whatever, right? And then I'll ask them, have you ever done a tournament? And most guys are like, yeah. And I was like, how long did it take you before you did a tournament? And I think the earliest I heard was 6 months, but for one guy, it was like 2 years. Like I trained for 2 years. And I was like, well, let me ask you a question. Why not just show up to a tournament without ever practicing? Like just show up to a tournament, just see how you do. And they're like, why would I do that? Like, that's dumb. Like I would get killed. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah.
Exactly.
And you just did the same thing with marriage and fatherhood.
Yep.
And then they're like, I was like, have you ever gone into the jiu-jitsu studio and learned a few things about your marriage, or gone into the jiu-jitsu studio of parenting and learned a few things about marrying? Not that it's a jiu-jitsu studio, but a coach or a therapist or a book or whatever, and implemented things, like actually had accountability, like you actually learned and then go implemented and then came back to your instructor and we polished things up. Have you ever done anything like that? And they looked at me like I was absolutely crazy. And they're like, no, why would I do that? And I'm like, well, why would you show up to a tournament without ever being trained? So like they then understand the perception. They're like, holy shit, man, no wonder I'm getting my rear end just handed to me every single day. It's because I'm showing up to tournaments, getting choked out, and I have no idea how to defend myself. I was like, yeah, it's exactly. So my advice to you would be like, you're not going to be good at this unless you learn. It's just like anything else. And by the way, for all my guys out there listening, they're like, well, I know all these things of what not to do. Like I was raised like this. So that was my story. I know all of these things of what not to do. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you went to Home Depot and bought a brand new smoker and you opened up the manual and said, here's 100 ways not to put this thing together, but don't worry, best of luck, best time of your whole life, you'll figure it out. That doesn't happen either.
Right.
So our perception of like, I don't need to learn anything in this because it will become naturally to me is a total lie. The fact that like I have a laundry list of things that I'm not going to do, that's enough. That's a total lie. So the answer to your question is, if you're perceiving fatherhood in any way, shape, or form that this will come naturally to you and you'll wing it and you'll figure it out, I caution the hell out of you to challenge that thought process and get into a classroom of some sort to learn this stuff as quickly as you possibly can. So, yeah.
Wonderful. That's wonderful. And just so happens, it's a great segue, because I want everybody to, I want you to tell them how they can find you, and also how they can find your podcast and social media. But I also want you to promote your courses too.
Sure.
Your coaching.
Well, so this will probably be pretty easy.
And your book.
Lift. Yeah. So I'll how about I promote a few of them? So yeah, if you can get the book right now. Well, not right now. I can't send them out until September, but you can pre-order it. If you go to thedadedge.com/legendary book, all one word, thedadedge.com/legendary book, you can pre-order the book for $28. The courses, so it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I have two really, really popular courses. One is Creating More Patience. That's for all my dudes out there, just like me, who just need a little bit more patience, some skills to keep you calm in chaos. When your kids are acting a fool and all you want to do is like go ballistic. I teach you 6 skills in that course on how to be more patient. It's 45 minutes long. Another course that I have is Creating Extraordinary Marriage Through Elevated Communication, Connection, and Intimacy. I teach you 11 skills in that one on how to communicate and connect better with your wife, how to attract her back to you versus you chasing her in a needy, desperate way. But you'll get immediate access to those 2 courses, which both of those courses, each one of them are $500 a piece. But if you pre-order the book for $28, you can have access to either one of those. Not that there's snake oil in those courses. The only reason I did that is because I figure if there's somebody who's eager enough to pre-order the book, that tells me that they want information right away. And since I can't send out the book until September, I'm giving those 2 courses away. I always tell people, start out with the podcast. There's 1,400 episodes, enough to keep you busy. I do caution you with this, though. I would not listen to more than 5 or 10 podcasts before you apply to be a part of our Dad Edge Alliance Mastermind, because content in your brain does not mean results in your life at all. In fact, content in means nothing unless you're doing something with it. The mastermind is it's our virtual, it's live, it's coaching right then and there. Like, you can learn 1 or 2 things. Literally, you hang up that call, you go implement them, you come back the next week, you come back and you let us know how you did. We'll polish it up for you. We'll help you with it. So that's where we become versus a content consumer into an executor. That's the biggest difference. And you can check out that if you go to thedadedge.com/mastermind.
Wonderful. And I will put links up so everybody can find that. And Larry, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on, and also thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for sharing your story, your history as well. And look, I appreciate all that you're doing out there to promote fatherhood and to make us be the best dads we can be. Thank you for doing that. Back at
you, man. And thanks for the work that you're doing.
No, I appreciate you. Hey, and thank you all for listening to the Dad to Dads podcast. You can find us on Spotify or Apple, as well as on most other platforms. You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, as well as leave a comment. I love reading each and every one of them, and also hearing your suggestions for future topics. Again, thank you all for listening, and we will talk to you next time.